Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. And in today's video, it's time for it's our tradition at this point, right? We're going in and we're going to give you a few epic only teams to take on the new rotation of Hydra. This is rotation 3, and we've got some pretty nasty stuff happening with how they've set up these heads. It's pretty scary when you go in first, but yeah, these teams should really help you out, I think. The big changes we've got right here. On the positive side, Head of Torment and Head of Mischief are not in the starting lineup, which means that buff stealing is gone. They're not going to be stealing your buffs, and this is going to play a huge part on the teams you're going to build. And they're also not going to be putting true fears in us when we attack. So that's, I think, quite a relief to a lot of people. If you don't have Inquisitor Shamail, that's okay. He's not going to be as mandatory. You can get away with not having Perfect Veil this time around. You'll be okay. The bad news is that the heads that are in, which are all blue and green affinity, by the way, so blue affinity for us in particular is going to be really good. The two really high damage heads are both green affinity this time. That's Blight and Wrath. Um, the heads that are in have some nasty combos. So number one, of course, we've got the head of Blight. The head of Blight, not Blight, excuse me. Head of Decay is in there, and he's going to be cleansing the debuffs off of these heads. Nasty combo number one. Our old friend, the Head of Wrath, we know he hits really hard. Well, guess what? You try to put decrease attack on him. Head of Decay cleanses that off. He puts increase attack on himself, and you can't stop him. And then he absolutely smashes your team. So you have to be able to survive a increase attack Head of Wrath Vengeance hit, which is a scary thing. We're going to need a lot of defenses to get through that. Other really annoying thing that can happen here is Head of Decay comes in, cleanses the heads, removes all their debuffs, and then our good friend, the Head of Blight, is going to come in and put Poison Cloud on everyone, which means that for 2 turns, every hit we do against them is going to be a weak hit, right? Unless they've HP burn on them. But how do you get HP burn on if the Poison Cloud's already on there? There's a couple of champions that can, and I'm going to show them to you here. Anyway, without any further ado, let us dive in and let me start building out the team. So, the first champion, who I think is going to be your favorite champion, if you are lucky enough to have her. I did a video on her a couple of days ago, and that's Demitha. So yeah, if you missed that video, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss this stuff, okay? Like, comment, subscribe. I mean, sign me the soul of your firstborn child. All of that stuff, that's what you want to do. But no, Demitha's coming in, and she has 2 insanely good abilities for this. So number 1, block damage and continuous heal on our team. That's on a 3-turn cooldown when you book it up. This is insane, right? One of the dangers of using her in the last couple of rotations was the Head of Mischief was in there and potentially stealing this block damage buff. And if he did, and he spread it to the other heads, that's 2 turns of block damage on the other heads. Pretty much disaster. No buff stealing this time, you're good. And then, as you saw from my Demitha video, this Light of the Deep move is a massive amount of healing, reducing our debuffs as well, which is huge against that Head of Blight. And it also extends our buffs. And buff extenders are super good this week. They're so good, or this month, I should say, because hey, without those buffs being stolen, we can just keep complete coverage of these buffs on. So that is fantastic. That is really good. The next epic we're putting in, she's been pretty much my favorite epic for every single rotation of Hydra so far, and it's no different this week or this month, and that's Ugo. Ugo's amazing here, guys. So good. She's coming in. AoE decreased defense, and AoE block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown. I feel like with the Head of Decay removing debuffs, right? I don't feel like it's really worth necessarily bringing in the other block buff champions. Anyway, they're rare enough in the first place, right? They're hard to get a hold of. Half of them, if not most of them, are actually legendary champions. But just the utility of the fact that she brings decreased defense and block buffs together, it's certainly worth bringing. You're going to want that decreased defense. She also has Leech on her A1, and then she has the ability to remove heal reduction, do a really nice heal to your team. On her A3 as well. So Ugo's just doing everything. She's super tanky, super survivable. She's helping you stay alive and bringing really good debuffs. Even with the Head of Decay cleansing, it's still worth bringing these. And it could be very handy if she gets that block buffs out before the Head of Decay cleanses. But basically, if he tries to put Poison Cloud on and they've got block buffs before the Head of Decay can cleanse, it stops Poison Cloud entirely. Then he cleanses, but you're okay because there's no Poison Cloud out there. The next really good champion, I mentioned this in the Demitha video too, is a little tip so you guys can start prepping as well. Unfortunately, he's only level 50 for me, but he is absolutely worth using, and that is Mordecai. So there are 2 epics, in fact, I think there's only 3 champions, as far as I'm aware. Let me know actually if you know of any others that can put HP burn on through the poison cloud. Mordecai is probably the most accessible because he's only an epic, right? But Heavenly Flames, 4-turn cooldown, places HP burn on all enemies for 2 turns, also gives you increased attack for 3 turns, which is great. But this comes in, and because this is not an attack, it's not a physical hit, it doesn't matter if they poison cloud on, he can just burn them anyway, which is fantastic. You're going to see how important that is at the start of this fight when we get into it. He also has some turn meter stuff, which is not super useful. It's really we're bringing him in for this AoE HP burn that goes through the poison cloud. Um, by the way, the other 2 champions that can do this, I'm not going to put him in this first team, but obviously you guys know Geomancer. Geomancer is still amazing here. I want to put Mordecai in first to show, give someone else a chance in the spotlight here, but Geomancer is obviously incredible, and he can put HP burn on through that. And then the other one, and these are the only 3, like I said, the other one is actually going to be Drexar with his passive. He puts HP burn on enemies when they hit him, so he becomes like this punching bag. The Hydra heads hit him, and he burns them through the poison cloud then. So yeah, they're worth watching out for. Um, okay, next up here. Next up, we are going to throw in some more buffs. I will say, actually, at this point, what are the 2 best buffs in the game now that they can't be stolen? Block damage from Demitha. The other one, which is definitely worth considering, I'm not going to put her in this particular team, but someone with block debuffs, right? Block debuffs is the other best defensive buff. I mean, look at it this way. If you got block damage and block debuffs on you, there's basically nothing that the heads can do to you. They can steal your turn meter, I guess, but that's it. There's literally nothing else. And she brings increased defense as well. Sepulchre Sentinel, she's a decent option for sure. I'm not going to bring her in this team. I'm going to use Demitha's A2 to reduce our debuffs and Ugo's cleanse. So we're not going to bring block debuffs. And by the way, I do point this out. He's obviously not an epic, but he was the fusion at Christmas, so most of you are probably going to have him. And if you have Datura, Datura is amazing this rotation. Block debuffs, increase defense on a 3-turn cooldown for 2 turns. Put him with a buff extender, and you have permanent block debuffs, permanent increased defense. He comes in with an A3 that gives you perfect veil and a shield on him. Perfect veil gives damage reduction and shield keeps him alive, makes you tanky, and it hits really hard. And this also means that if you do get further into your run and the Head of Torment comes in, the guy that can fear, you already have an answer built into your team. And yeah, Datura, he's got amazing stats. Like, look at those stats, and he hits like a truck. So Datura is god tier. I'm not going to put him in though because he's a legendary, and we're sticking to this epics only. To give me increased defense and strength, and I'm going to bring in Ursula the Mourner here. Requiem, 5-turn cooldown, long cooldown, but does do an AoE revive, gives us increased defense, and gives us strengthen. So we want all these defensive buffs to try stay alive. Increased defense, strengthen. Ally protection is also amazing. Shields are also amazing. Anything like that. She also brings us an AoE decrease attack with increased attack for us. Kind of overlaps Mordecai, who's already giving us the increased attack, but an AoE decrease attack is nice. Her A1 doesn't really do much, but she's going to come in. She's going to be our reviver. And yeah, just give us those defensive buffs, which Demitha can extend and help keep us alive. Then, actually, a nice champion, I think, this time around as well. Archmage Helmet, he's going to come in, give us increased speed, crit rate, crit damage. That increased speed's the big one. Demitha extends it, and yeah, we're just going to be running super fast. And then for a bit more damage, I'm going to throw in Royal Guard. Royal Guard, he's great affinity this week, which is awesome. And he's going to come in, and he's going to be doing this AoE, max HP smack. He's going to be putting decreased speed out. He's going to be putting decreased defense. And he's just going to be doing damage. We're a bit low on the revives, so we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to flip over to boom, here we go. I have it set up. I can show it actually to you really quick. I've got an AI preset if you're curious for what I've done here, just to make sure stuff goes well. You'll see why this on Mordecai is important with the speed I have him running at for hard difficulty, and I'll explain how you're going to work around that. But yeah, let's dive in, and I'll show you then the other teams afterwards. Again, this is on hard difficulty. I probably have much better gear than you if you're an earlier mid-game player. Don't worry about it. I think hard difficulty is a huge step up in terms of stats. Funny enough, like going from hard to brutal is nowhere near as hard as going from normal to hard. And look at this. So here we go. We come in and look at that. Did you guys see what happened right there? This is what is so nasty about the start of this fight. Head of Decay and the Head of Blight, these 2 guys together are speed tuned by Plarium so that he comes in and he removes all debuffs, and right afterwards, Head of Blight comes in and puts that poison cloud. So how are we going to play around it? I said Ugo go do her thing. This is what we've prepared for. Demitha's gonna look at this, extend our debuffs. Oh, other nasty combo, as you can see, very visually here. Oh, actually, we're gonna have to wait a turn because we got provoked. That's unfortunate. Other really nasty thing, the Head of Blight or Head of Decay is reducing our max HP, which makes this guy so scary. So scary. So we got to wait for Mordecai because we don't have block debuffs, unfortunately. He did get provoked right there. You could build him with some resistance. My Mordecai, as you can see, is only level 50, which is going to make this a bit trickier, but he can come around. He had his turn at the right time, but he did have, unfortunately, that provoke on. But he's going to come around. You can just leave this on auto. It's going to be fine. Bam. They still have Poison Cloud on half of them. Boom. He burns them through the Poison Cloud. And now we're feeling an awful lot better. We've got block buffs out, which is good. It's going to stop him getting some of his buffs, which is definitely going to be scary. And the block damage coming out. So let's see how we sustain. You can see that there's a huge amount of damage coming out. And because of the Head of Decay, with that max HP reduced, yeah, it's kind of nasty. It's kind of nasty. Here we go. She's extending our buffs. You can see how many buffs we're running with here. How many buffs? And look at this. Big hit comes out. It's doing a lot of damage. Like my Royal Guard's obviously, he's a squishy character. Mordecai being only level 50, he's having a tough time, but we were able to sustain through it. And now we're going to be having Ugo, hopefully will help pick us back up. And in a big way, Demitha should come in and help us pick back up as well. She's put out a bit of a shield. Royal Guard kills himself with takedown because we're not able to stop reflect damage. So this is why we have the revive in here. Oh, you guys can't quite. I'm actually kind of blocking Royal Guard. I think you can just about see his health bar. Demitha puts the block damage up. The smack with Vengeance comes in from Head of Wrath, but block damage protected us, and we are good. Now, one thing we're going to want to do, I wasn't paying attention right there. I was getting too excited, too ahead of myself. So right here, you're going to want to pay attention to Mordecai's turns. Or whoever your HP burner is, pay attention to their turns. Now, if you're running Drexthar, it doesn't matter, just leave it on auto. But Head of Decay, he's going to cleanse in like a second here. So we're not going to use our AoE HP burn. We'll use a different move instead. We're going to save that. Are they going to smack me? Maybe. I'm just going to throw this out. That's okay. Okay, you can do your thing. All right. Ugo, you can do your thing. That's totally fine. And we just want to make sure to save that HP burn. Here we go. Look at that heal. 70,000 healing on Archmage Helmet. This is part of why Archmage is really good as well. He brings a lot of buffs, which helps us. I'm just going to smack this guy with the A1 from Royal Guard. I'm going to try keep that decreased speed. Again, this is why we need to be careful here. The decreased speed sort of messing us up a little bit in a sense. But okay, we're good. So now we can put it back on auto. He's been stunned, so no provoke going to come out this time. This guy, he's getting ready for his Poison Cloud, but no worries for us because Mordecai is going to come around. HP burn AoE, and we're doing really solid here. So yeah, we're up to 3 million and 3,500,000, 700,000 now actually. The HP burn's going to do a lot of work. And yeah, I mean, you can get away with it, right? If you don't have a Royal Guard built up who's obviously doing these really big smacks, like it's totally fine to bring in another defensive champion, right? You could bring in someone with block, like Tatura would be amazing if you got Tatura, obviously. Someone with block debuffs, so you don't have to worry about those provokes and such. And just let HP burn do the work and you try to survive. And there's a couple of other buffs I'm going to show you in a second. So you can see huge hit coming out, very scary. A level 50 guy goes down. We should be okay right here, hopefully, hopefully. Oh, let's take it off auto. Let's check. I wasn't paying attention. Let's make sure. Does Demitha have her moves ready to go? She doesn't. So at this point, I'm actually going to cancel out. I think this is looking a bit too sketchy. I'd run this again. So yeah, you can see this is rough. This is not easy. 5,200,000. Okay, not bad. So that would be a 1 key on normal where there's a lot less damage coming out. But you can see the scariness. You can see the scariness. So be really careful. It can go bad really fast. So you could come in and you could switch out like whatever. Okay, let's say we take out Royal Guard. Let's put in someone else defensive. Let's put in someone that gives us like shielding and healing. Let's put in someone like where is she? Like Melga could come in, for example. Melga could come in and she could provide us with sheer grit, which gives us a nice shield, something to keep us alive. Or you could put in Tatura, a legendary, something like that. I do think this Royal Guard team is going to work decently well. And this, by the way, would be, in my opinion, like the ultimate sort of version of this team, putting in better champions. So switching out the level 50 Mordecai, definitely for Geomancer. Again, just time as burns. Switching in to Tura, just for, more defenses here. And you're just trying to go with this. We don't have a revive, so this could get a little sketchy. We could take out Archmage, for example, and we could put in someone with a revive instead. Like we could put in Godseeker would be probably the next step there. And that's a really juicy team. Just complete uptime on your buffs. Yeah, really solid. Should do the work. You don't need increased attack because really it's enemy max HP and burns and reflecting damage that do the work there. So yeah, that would be probably the best sort of team. Now, a couple of other ideas. Let's check out these teams. So this team right here, what do we have going on? This team looks a lot like, your regular clan boss team, and this is building off these defenses. So I think Jareg is going to be amazing this week, okay? Ally protection, increased defense on all allies. Ally protection is going to be the next massive defensive debuff to keep you alive, and he puts out continuous heals whenever you get smacked. So he's going to do tons of healing, tons of protection, and he brings you a really good HP aura as well. So Jareg is going to be an MVP this week. I think Duck the Pierced, if you don't have Ugo, is a really good option as well. 3-turn cooldown with AoE, decrease attack and decrease defense, and decrease accuracy on his A1. That's going to be fantastic. Here's a big one. Skull Crusher. Okay. Ally protection and counterattack. So this is the other buff that you're really scared of, right? Counterattack. If that gets stolen by Head of Mischief and spread around those Hydra heads, you're in trouble. But Head of Mischief isn't there. He's not there, so you're good. So this is going to really up your damage, and we can build our team sort of intelligently around this to do some fun stuff. So for example, Melga's going to come in. She's going to give us shielding, continuous heals as well. She brings a revive too, which is nice. Her A1, unfortunately mine isn't booked, but can remove random debuffs from a random ally. So kind of a nice combo there. She counterattacks, and every time she counterattacks due to Skull Crusher's counterattack buff, she removes a random debuff from someone. Starts adding up to to a decent amount of extra cleansing. Godseeker, she's going to be our buff extender. She's going to be healing whenever she counterattacks, and she brings us a big single target revive. She brings us more healing and block revive, so going to help us keep alive. And then Drexthar, this is like the secret weapon. His passive HP burn whenever he's hit, so that gets burn on through the poison cloud. And then his A1 has a really good chance to put HP burn as well, right? Nice chance for HP burn, and that combos with our friend Skull Crusher. So the counterattack comes out, and he's just going to be spreading around HP burn, basically an AoE. So this is a very tanky team. This team is really just designed to tank through. We've got 2 sources of ally protection. We've increased defense. We have decreased attack, which is not going to be super reliable because it can be cleansed, but it is there. And he's a defensive-based hero, so he's tanky. All of these heroes are either HP or defense-based, super survivable. Got 2 revivers, tons of healing, and really it's the counterattack with Drexthar passive and the burns that are going to do most of our damage. So that's a really powerful sort of team option that's all about building defense and counterattack. Very sort of traditional clan boss team that's going to be huge. Again, here we go. This is another example of, I think, champions. A lot of traditional clan boss champions coming in here as well. Obviously, Geomancer we all know about. Putting HP burn on a target, reflecting that damage, 15% damage reduction for your team. Amazing. Stag Knight, I think, is a decent option. Not as good as Ugo, not as good as Duck. He has that 3-turn cooldown, decrease defense, decrease attack. He can also place decreased speed on his A1. Now, the issue you'll run into with Stag Knight is that he is not the best affinity for this week. However, on the positive, he is the right affinity for Head of Wrath, so he will get decreased attack if it's not blocked by Poison Cloud onto the Head of Wrath. So that is at least something that you can play with, that you can work with, right? Sepulchre Sentinel coming in, increased defense, block debuffs. Awesome. She also brings some decreased attack, and she can also mitigate 1 hit. I think Taragi the Frog is going to be fantastic this week, actually. He's going to come in, he can put a big shield on your team and ally protection and heal himself, reflect damage on himself. He puts out poisons when he's hit, and actually a lot of these heads this week are vulnerable to poisons. They don't take a lot of damage, but they take some. His A1 can put decreased attack as well. So Taragi the Frog is actually... He's an MVP for the Demon Lord. He's going to be great this week against these heads. He'll get good damage against the Head of Decay, the Head of Blight with the poisons. It's not going to be insane, but it will add up. It will add up just from being hit and helping your team stay alive. Then actually, let me talk about Sandlash last. Rector Drath is still going to be good, and she gives you a second answer as well for if you do get the Head of Torment switching in, because she puts out that Perfect Veil, which is damage reduction. She's just lots of healing, can put Continuous Veil as well. She's got the Revive, she has decreased attack in her A1, and then her passive is doing tons of healing for you, which is fantastic. And then Sandlash Survivor, another hidden gem this rotation. She has increased buffs and decreased enemy buffs as well. But yeah, increasing your buffs, giving you that complete coverage with your defenses. Her A1 does decent damage, and then her passive's great, right? Whenever an ally goes below 50% HP, ally protection on everyone and block damage on her. It can't be stolen, so absolutely no stress of that. Head of Mischief's not there. basically any of us start getting nuked down, she instantly puts extra ally protection out, right? So if Taragi's ally protecting us, and then Taragi gets nuked down, she'll ally protect Taragi and help him stay up. She'll replace those ally protections with her own potentially. And yeah, just sort of spread the damage, spread the love. But there you go. A whole bunch of different ideas. Um, I honestly think hard is going to be pretty hard. It's going to be really hard this week. Normal, I think you'll be able to do okay, but the extra stats on those heads for hard, it's going to be nasty. But hopefully teams like these are just using epics, they will get you through. As you can see, we're really going to struggle with this epic only team. Maybe if Mordecai was 60, it'd be a bit easier, but it's going to be pretty rough to get in and to get through on hard. Like a one key is going to be really nasty. I'm going to be working on that, but these are some teams to get you started. You get the idea, the team building tips. And yeah, I'd kind of, I'm going to test out this team and see what we can do with this. I think this team is going to be really nice. It's got tons of defenses, extending buffs, block damage, block debuffs. It's got it all. Enemy max HP nukes, and Geomancer is going to be, I think, once again the MVP, but you got to be smart with the Head of Decay in there. But guys, thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful and you got a few team ideas out of it. That's why my main goal is to give you a bunch of ideas, and you can see the teams I'm putting together so you can like really construct your own, construct and min-max your own teams. Here we go. They're up on the screen so you can see them all. I'll see you next time. I'm going to be working away. We're going to get some one key hard. Try get one key brutal. I'm a little bit scared of that. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but one key hard for sure. Right. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching and bye bye.